What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical average American here today to react and continue learning about things you should not do in Toronto. Part 2. If you haven't seen part 1, feel free to go check that out or stay right here where you are. That's perfectly fine as well. But in part 1, we started learning about tips. Tips for things that will help you maximize your enjoyment of Toronto. Things you should not do there so you get the most out of your experience, especially helpful for visitors and people like me who do not understand and are not familiar with Canadian cities at all. So some of the things we started learning in part 1 were to get used to public transportation. That is a tough one for my American brain to wrap itself around. But use public transportation, the TTC, it's called. And don't even bother driving a car in Toronto. I don't know if this is a safety thing or it has to do with time and not spending half your day trying to get through the traffic and survive and hope you come out alive on the other side. But also the whole getting used to understanding and using the public transportation system sounds fun in a way because Americans like myself, we don't have public transportation. We have some buses that are kind of terrible and not very enjoyable to be on, and that's about it. That's all we got. So there'd be a learning curve for me, but it's good advice. What else do we have here? We were talking about the Hockey Hall of Fame. Like, that's really, really good to go to, even if you're not a big hockey fan. And the Dinosaur Museum, good for adults as well, not just kids. We like dinosaurs too. And the food. Enjoy the food. This was also one that was kind of tough for me to wrap my head around because he was making a good point. Like, if you're in Toronto, don't feel like you have to just eat all the stereotypical Canadian food, like maple syrup flavored stuff and poutine and stuff like that. Take advantage of the fact that Toronto is very international and has lots of amazing, authentic international food, which I agree with, but it's like, if you're visiting Canada for the first time, like, you gotta eat the Canadian food as well. I think there's room for both, especially for us Americans. There's room for inside of our stomachs for both. Don't you worry. We can handle our food just fine. And oh yeah, he mentioned tipping. There's tipping in Canada, like the same as in America, so that's finally something I'm a little familiar with. And aside from that, I'm excited to see what other things you should not do in Toronto. I have no idea. So let's take a look.
Is when you're going around the city, don't miss those neighborhoods, whether you're going to go out to eat or go see some of the galleries and some of the shops or just enjoying your time here. Whether you're going to the Distillery District, which is like this nice pedestrian area with shops.
Distillery District. Are there just a bunch of different districts? Feels like Toronto has a bunch of different parts to it that are very like unique neighborhoods and districts, all kind of known for something, and an awful lot to explore, I gotta say, and it's really nice. A lot of stuff. I wanted to take a look at...
Miss those neighborhoods, whether you're gonna go out to eat.
This is like, it's very funny because I feel like these kinds of places are very frowned upon in the United States. And I mean like buildings that look kind of old, they're kind of small, they're kind of smushed together. But I think in Toronto and in cities, it's like, these are actually the places you want to go. The places that are, are a little deceiving maybe on the outside, but they're probably a mom and pop shop, like owned by a family or something, and make the best food you can imagine. And it's real fun to find these kind of small places, I think, in Toronto.
Distillery District, which is like this nice pedestrian area with shops and place to eat and stuff. Yeah, it's a little touristy, but it's well worth it. Going out to Kensington Market with all the boutiques there. I mean, that's always a fun place to go.
Oh, wow.
That's actually Jocelyn's favorite neighborhood here in Toronto. Whether you're going to Greektown.
I love how in every picture, you can like see the CN Tower in the back.
Fun place to go. That's actually Jocelyn's.
Right there. There it is. CN Tower, sticking up, hiding back there. Okay.
Favorite neighborhood here in Toronto. You know, whether you're going to Greektown, Cabbagetown, you know, Queen Street West. I mean, there's so many different neighborhoods
Wow.
for you to explore that I really recommend that you actually stay out in the neighborhoods, because my next dome for you is don't expect much going on the weekends downtown, because downtown
Really?
is downtown. It's a working area. And so when it's Saturday and Sunday,
Oh. Yeah, I would have thought, like, I don't know anything. There's the CN Tower again. I'm gonna be distracted by that, this video, I can tell. CN Tower spotting. There it is. What was I talking about? Yeah, I would think that, like, downtown, I don't know much of what downtown is in Toronto, but it sounds like it'd be busy, bustling, popular. But it's actually good he's pointing this out, because apparently on the weekend, I would think that's when it would be the most active, but that's when everybody's off work and, like, doing something else and not downtown, I guess.
I mean, it's pretty empty except for some tourists walking around. So you might want to stay outside of downtown if you're here on the weekend. If you're here during the week, it's totally fine. There's plenty of accommodation, but just want to give you the heads up. Now, my
Cool.
favorite spot to visit when I'm here, and I don't want you to miss out on it, is don't forget to pig out when you go to St. Lawrence Market. So St. Lawrence
Don't forget to pig out. You don't gotta tell me twice. Don't forget to pig out. Got it.
Market has been voted like one of the best markets in the entire world, and you go there.
Oh, the St. Lawrence Market. One of the best in the entire world is in Toronto. That's very random to me. I wouldn't have necessarily just assumed Toronto, Canada has like one of the best markets, but that's awesome.
I mean, it's got, you know, the cheeses and the meats and all the
Oh.
stuff that's there. But what's cool is you can have a lot of the Canadian specialties and Toronto specialties when you're there. One thing, if you want to get that
Yeah.
meal bacon sandwich that you hear about that you need to have when you're here in Toronto,
Pea-meal bacon sandwich that I've heard about. I've never heard about this. Is this popular? It looks great.
you can get it there. And it's fantastic. If you ever want to have one, if you're trying to think what it looks like it's a ham sandwich kind of, but it's
Yeah.
kind of like if ham and a bratwurst had a baby and then you sliced it thin and put it on some fantastic bread with some mustard, that's what it tastes
Wow.
like.
All right.
Or you can get some butter tarts when you're there because
Butter tarts. There we go. That's like a Canadian snack that doesn't exist in the United States. Butter tart. Okay.
there's bakeries there that have their stuff there. Get the pastel de nata, those Portuguese tarts I was talking about. So many good things to have when you're there that you should just go explore. So
Yeah.
go there and you can answer the eternal debate in Canadian families. Is it a butter tart? Is it better with raisins in it or better with nuts in it? I mean, I got both to try and I'm team nut.
Wow. I didn't know this was so fiercely debated in Canadian culture. The butter tart debate. This whole market looks amazing. What a great place. And it looks like it'd be like a great place to explore and also get exposure to a lot of different food options too.
I'm sorry, I'm team nut. Raisin was good, but team nut butter tart, that's me.
Oh,
now, when
wow.
you're going around the city, if you want to get a kind of feel of the city, don't feel that you have to do the hop on, hop off bus. Remember the TTC?
Right.
They've got streetcars, and those streetcars,
These streetcars are amazing. They're gigantic. It's like a train above the ground. Like, I have not ever seen something like this. This is, like, seems futuristic to me. These are just like normal in Toronto? Okay. Yeah. The buses, this is good advice. Like, you don't need to go on a tour bus. Then you don't have any control over where you go. I guess it's good for tourists if they want to be told what some cool stuff is to look at, but sounds like taking the Toronto public transportation would be kind of an adventure itself, and you can just run around the city finding stuff.
it's like stepping back in time, taking the streetcar around town, around
Yeah.
the city, and they go out to the neighborhoods as well. So that's one thing I do recommend. Our
Okay.
buddy Jeff, who just stopped by, another fellow traveler, made sure I wanted to tell you that. So thanks, Jeff, for that one. Now, another thing I want to remind you of is don't forget about all the history and art you can see when you're here in Toronto.
Okay.
Because there are tons of like history museums, historic homes you can go to. Yes, you can go to Casa
Wow.
Loma and see the Castle of Toronto when you want.
There's a castle? A castle in Toronto. What is this a castle of? Like, there are no castles in America. Like, and I actually didn't realize there were castles in Canada. I would be really curious to learn about what on earth this is.
want to go there. The gardens are there are beautiful. You know, you can see that. Heck, if you're here in October,
Wow.
they actually have a
CN Tower. There it is. Always making its appearance. There it is in the way background.
October, they actually have a Halloween theme in there too. So there's that. There's a lot of historic homes, history, museums to check out.
Okay.
But for me, it's the art that's here. Yes, a contemporary art museum you can go to.
Yeah.
The murals around.
Oh, I like the contemporary art stuff. I like the art museums that are like borderline silly, where the artwork kind of makes you wonder, okay, they hung up a picture of a blank canvas of just white with an orange dot on it. What does that mean? I could have done that. But it's also kind of, that's sometimes kind of the fun stuff, like some of the weird modern art. So I happen to actually enjoy it just because it is kind of strange. That's the point.
Around the city is fantastic, but the Art Gallery of Ontario is probably the must-see art gallery if you're going to go here. Definitely go for that, but if you don't have time for that, in some of the neighborhoods they'll have smaller galleries with the artists actually there, and so you can go check those out.
Cool.
Now another thing I have for you is don't come to Toronto in the winter. Look, it's cold.
Just don't come. Do not come in the winter. I get it. Man, it's probably like dangerous as well, thinking about all the cars and public transportation and stuff, like having to drive on all this snow and ice. It's more dangerous, it's less pleasant because it's cold, especially to us Americans. It's like extra cold. We have never endured a Canadian winter before, so this is probably good advice, actually.
It's Toronto. It's cold. Just deal with that. But if you do have to come here to Toronto in the winter, don't forget to use the Path. The Path is the underground network of corridors, hallways, shops, all kinds of stuff that connects all kinds of places around town. Like I can literally go from here at City Hall all the way down to Union Station. It's about a 20-minute walk on the ground, like above ground. There's connected hallways and corridors.
That's unbelievable. I remember when I first heard about this, like, there's a massive underground network under Toronto called the Path. Like, I had never heard of that before. It seems like it'd be a bigger deal. Like, that's amazing. And I always forget that that's even a thing in Toronto.
Corridors that go all the way there. So use that in the winter to keep yourself safe from the elements, because there's no reason to complain about the cold, because you can get out of it when you're here. Now, another sad thing I've got to tell you about Toronto is it's...
Look at this fountain. Look at this fountain. Why are these dogs spitting water so fiercely and strongly into this fountain? It's cool. It's art. I don't question it.
Toronto as a tourist is, don't expect Toronto to be cheap. I mean, have you seen the HGTV shows where they're shopping in Toronto for houses?
Fair.
You're like, yes, I'm looking for a one bed, one bath house with a window. Oh, that's $17.9 billion. I mean, it's not that bad, but honestly, the housing prices are high, but also going out to eat, going out to drink.
This is, okay, I would accept this for any major city in the world, honestly. Everything's always really expensive, so this makes sense to me, but it's good to remember so you're not surprised.
Shopping, staying here. It is probably the priciest city in Canada, or this in Vancouver.
Wow.
So do be aware of that when you're planning your budget for Toronto, because, yeah, it ain't going to be cheap. So going along with the expensive side of things, also, don't use US dollars when you're here. We use Canadian dollars.
What?
It's Canada.
No.
The thing is, though, some places will take US dollars, so if you don't want to exchange...
Like US money, like physical money? I assume when you're in Canada, like hopefully Americans can just use their credit card or debit card normally, and maybe the bank like automatically converts it. I think that would probably work. But yeah, I would never bring like American dollars, like physical dollar bills, and expect Canadian businesses to take them. That would just be kind of like arrogant, I think. Like, use Canadian money when in Canada. Like, obviously, that makes sense.
Money, you don't have to necessarily, but just know that they will give you an exchange rate that's to their liking. Also, you will get your change back in Canadian coins. So, hey, you'll get some loonies and toonies. So I guess there's a good thing there.
Right.
But honestly, just go to the ATM and take out some Canadian money and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Because most of the places anyway, you can pay with a credit card, no big deal. But I will say it's mostly Visa and Mastercard.
Why are there so many statues of things? You know what? Yeah, that statue on the right. What's going on there? What's with all these fountains everywhere? dogs spitting and...
Anyway, you can pay with credit card, no big deal. But I will say it's mostly Visa and MasterCard are the two most accepted ones that I've seen. Another note I want to add about Toronto is don't forget about the bikes. You can actually rent the bikes and go around town. There's plenty of bike lanes everywhere. But I got to tell you, don't forget to watch out for the bikers because they have their own kind of code of conduct. So
the bike. That's cool. You can rent bikes and stuff. These aren't like e-bikes, right? That help you, like, propel you. These are just normal bikes, I'm assuming. So you can, like, pay at this machine and get a bike. That's awesome, actually. That's fantastic. What's he getting on about with the bike culture or something?
Don't block the bike lane. Park in the bike lane. Don't mess with the bike lane because the bikers got their own thing here. So,
I mean, you shouldn't be blocking the bicycle lane anyway. So what if you like if you block the bicycle lane, you're gonna get like poutine thrown at you or something? You deserve it, I say.
Just be aware of that. Now, if you're going to be here for a while, I got to tell you this one. Don't miss out on a day trip to Niagara Falls. And It's actually not that far. If you drove here, it's one of the times it's worth it to get the car out of the valet and drive. You can go down to...
Yeah, how far away is Niagara Falls from Toronto? Yeah, if it's pretty close by, like, that's like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, especially for Americans. Like, yeah, this is great advice. I didn't even realize you could do this while in Toronto.
Niagara Falls, but the thing is there's tons of tours that go from Toronto down there, and there's also buses that go down there, so you can easily get to Niagara Falls. Also, if you want to get back to nature, don't forget you can take the ferries out and have a nice view of the harbor and go around, go over the islands. Yeah. You can do that as well. And then this don't I have for you is one I really, really enjoy about Toronto. Don't think you have to be big city scared when you come to Toronto. This is a safe...
Okay, that's fair enough, because I think a lot of Americans think of Los Angeles and we think of New York City, and New Yorkers are like aggressive and, you know, don't have a lot of patience. And so, yeah, a lot of Americans traveling to the biggest Canadian city would probably be thinking, what are the people like? Like, are they what American city people are like, or is it a little nicer? I would expect that, honestly.
Safe big city, okay? Now, I know not every big city has issues, and Toronto has its own issues, but you're not worrying like you do in New York or Chicago or LA or anything like that.
Okay.
You're really enjoying the city, and you can go out at night and enjoy yourself. You can go shopping. You can take your family around without worrying because it is a really safe big city.
Nice.
Yeah, maybe a pickpocket here or there and some other stuff.
Right. It's a city. Like, there's gonna be crime. That doesn't blow my mind or anything, or make me change my whole opinion of Toronto and Canada, that there is in fact crime in this world. Yes, of course. But it'd be interesting to look at some crime statistics, but I'm guessing based on his experiences, I can pretty much tell that it's a lot more pleasant experience. It feels a lot safer in Toronto, which doesn't surprise me a whole lot.
But otherwise, this is actually a really great city to visit. So those are my don'ts of visiting Toronto. What are your don'ts to help out other travelers coming to this great city? I'll say bye from here in Toronto.
There you go. Very good. That was by Walter's World, and I liked it. I liked it a lot. That was a lot of... It's funny because his video is like a bunch of stuff you should not do in Toronto, the don'ts of Toronto, but at the end of the day, there were a lot of don'ts, which were good advice, but there's also a lot of like, make sure to do this when you're in Toronto. So it's somehow this video turned kind of into, here's all the cool stuff in Toronto, and feel free to avoid this other stuff, like driving your car around and visit Niagara Falls if you get the time. But seriously, I enjoy these sorts of things. It also gives me such a sort of different perspective and a new perspective on all the stuff and cool things in Toronto and kind of what Toronto life is like. And as Canada's biggest, most popular city, that's really fascinating for me to learn about. So I enjoyed this quite a bit. Anyway, if you enjoyed this as well, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment, perhaps with your tips on stuff you shouldn't do or should do in Toronto. And if you're interested in more videos like this, me reacting to Canada and Canadian culture and stuff in Canada that I've never seen, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.